CTV News with Caroline Van Vlartigan.
Good evening. Advocates for undocumented migrants say a new coroner's report highlights the plight of some of the desperate people trying to enter Canada to start a new life. Leticia Oliveira Alves likely died around mid-January 2024 in frigid weather in southern Quebec near the U.S. border, the report states. Her body was only discovered in April near Coaticook. Records show she tried 3 times in the days before her death to enter Canada, but Canada border officials turned her back each time. The coroner noted there were no traces of violence on her body and she likely died of hypothermia. A Montreal man who heads a support group for migrants says Alves was hoping to study in Canada to get her PhD.
Let's go back to be the Canada that most people will know, where it's a safe place to be. We're welcoming a very human Canada. Let's not follow the Trumpist approach to immigration. People are coming here because they're looking a better place to be. We have a declining population growth in Canada. There's place for many people. And most people are coming like her. And my understanding is she has a master's degree, coming to do a PhD. And most likely, before she was able to go and do, higher education, she probably would work in a restaurant. So we have well-educated people.
And Andre says Canada's current policy of turning migrants back at the border often means those people will face persecution, either by ICE in the U.S. or forces in their own country if they're deported back to where they fled from. Quebec's major police forces have decided to combine their efforts to fight extortion attempts against business owners. Stéphane Giroux explains.
Quebec's police forces say they're unifying their efforts to go after the extortion of businesses in Quebec.
And with the strategy that we're deploying, we'll make sure that our 28 police organizations are collaborating and bring that information to one center.
Police will work with one central command where various forces will coordinate their investigations. In Montreal, the number of businesses facing extortion has doubled in the last 4 years.
It's always start pretty much with a verbal threat, and that verbal threat gives you to have that protection. If you don't pay, you won't have any protection, and after that, bad things happen.
Police say their strategy will involve visiting bars, stores, and other merchants to remind them they can report what they see and point out that paying protection to criminals won't buy peace of mind.
Even though you pay to one part of organized crime, maybe another part will come and ask you also for protection. So it's not the same thing if we go back 30 years ago.
The one consistent pattern so far is that most of these crimes are committed by teenagers. They're often paid by adult sponsors, but the problem is the sentences, once they get caught, tend to be rather low.
Quebec's domestic security minister wants the federal government to increase prison sentences for those crimes.
And this is a reality for Quebec, this is a reality for Ontario, this is a reality for BC as well, unfortunately. So we all asked our federal colleagues to do something about it.
And in the meantime, restaurant owners say they're glad they're being taken seriously.
And it's very important right now that the restaurant owners, they feel heard and feel safe. So it's gonna help them, to go through this.
But most targeted business owners say they'll sleep better at night once criminals move on to something else. Stéphane Giroux, CTV News.
Well, last January, we told you about a rash of distraction thefts in stores. Well, police now have a warrant for a suspect. Matt Grillo on that.
Janice Beatty says she was finishing up her shift at a pet store in Verdun when someone walked in looking for a specific product. She walked to the back of the store to find the item, and she thought the client would follow.
I looked behind me and I didn't see him there, and I was like, oh, that's kind of weird.
Instead, the man took Beatty's backpack.
While I was at the back of the store, he had grabbed my backpack and was going through it. You can see clearly in the video put my bag back in place. So I had no idea my wallet was even taken.
In an arrest warrant, Beatty is listed as one of 17 victims of Sean Magna. He's facing several charges, including theft, fraud, and robbery.
The kind of thing you're like, you see it on TV all the time, and then you just would never imagine someone would have the guts to really pull that off.
In January, CTV spoke with another robbery victim, an employee at a Plateau business called Espace Skins. In that incident, security footage shows a man making off with a cash register. Prosecutors allege Magna committed crimes from July until as recently as April. That's when he's accused of stealing from Beatty, who says $3,000 was taken from her line of credit.
It's definitely concerning because of the way he did it. I mean, he clearly knows what he's doing, and he's going to probably keep doing it and stealing people's money.
Beatty had no idea there are many other alleged victims until she was contacted by CTV. She hopes police can make an arrest to stop other people from losing their hard-earned money. Matt Grillo, CTV News.
The Supreme Court of Canada will hear an appeal on a case brought forward by some residents of Brossard. The highest court in the land has approved a class action lawsuit for residents living on Dré Prairie Road who say they have suffered from years of unbearable traffic noise on their street. They blame development and a link to the nearby 1030 shopping center for changing their street. A superior court has awarded them thousands in compensation, but that was overturned on appeal, and now the Supreme Court will hear their case. A campaign to raise money to fix the Douglas Hospital has raised $700,000. The Douglas's research center was damaged by water this winter when pipes in the sprinkler system broke in some of the labs. The water destroyed equipment and samples, so the Douglas Foundation put out a call to raise $1 million, and it's now just $300,000 short of that goal. Well, for more than a decade, the health and well-being of Montreal teens has been on the decline, and high school students from across the city gathered downtown today to voice their concerns about it and ideas for improvements. Here's Angela McKenzie.
People think it makes us softer because we talk about mental health and stuff. But
these teens are talking about issues affecting the health of the city's young people. Along with other Montreal high school students, they're sharing their experiences and ideas to adults working in health and education. Timur Elbagami says teens need judgment-free spaces to talk about mental health and need to be taught how to ask for help.
A lot of teens, I find, they just need a source of support, and especially specialized support, and often that is not received.
These conversations are in response to data collected by Montreal Public Health.
The data is showing that the health of young people, for the most part, is not going better, it's going worse.
Over a 13-year period, overall teen health declined by 12%, and over 7 years, their mental health declined by nearly 10%. While Public Health found the pandemic made things worse, it's not the only factor.
Polarization, violence, climate change. So there's a lot of things going on in the society that makes young people less confident about the future.
The head of the Lester B. Pearson School Board says today's teens face more uncertainty than previous generations.
These are not just the same issues about mental health, friendship, violence, habits and lifestyle choices. It's also within that backdrop of complex world politics, limited resources, students feeling pressured to perform.
Public Health also found girls' health is declining more than boys. Kayla Wani says social media can mess with confidence.
Just because you see something online, if it's too good to be true, it probably is.
For Lily Brender Ashe, friendships are important, but forging new ones can be difficult.
I think it's definitely important to maybe go outside of your comfort zone and talk to new people and talk to people who seem a little quieter or shy.
As they look to build brighter and healthier futures for their generation and beyond. Angela McKenzie, CTV News.
Half of the metro stations in Montreal are in need of serious repairs, and Quebec Solidaire says the money to fix it exists. It's just sitting in Ottawa. Sweeta Brassi has more.
At the de l'Église metro station in Verdun, water is leaking from the ceiling. And for commuters, it's a bad sight.
No, it's tough because it looks terrible. Even from the inside, it doesn't feel safe. There's a lot of leaks.
Like, I'm a student, so like it's vital for me to be able to take metro.
The STM network is deteriorating rapidly, and assessments from the transportation agency shows nearly half of its stations are in poor condition. 5 of them received an E rating, the lowest possible score, meaning they have serious infrastructure problems that could pose safety risks. De l'Église is one of them. And it's also where Québec Solidaire chose to make a point.
That's why it's an emergency situation.
Québec Solidaire spokesperson Ruba Razal is calling on the Premier to go after Ottawa's Public Transit Fund, a federal program providing long-term funding for transportation projects across the country. The money is supposed to start rolling out this year, and Québec Solidaire believes the province's fair share should be $5 billion. Quebec's Transportation Ministry told CTV News the discussions with the federal government on the Canada Public Transit Fund are progressing well, and there is no indication that funding will not be up to date. Brian Nash is with Trajectoire Québec.
The government of Quebec needs to get that deal done as soon as possible so that the provincial government and all the Quebec's population can benefit of that money that is actually theirs.
The STM is also urging both levels of government to accelerate discussions and release the funds. But at this point, it's still unclear when that will happen. Sweeterassi, CTV News.
Quebec's minimum wage will rise to $16.60 an hour tomorrow, but researchers say it's still not even close to a living wage. Here's Matt Gilmore.
More than 250,000 Quebec workers will be getting a small bump in pay on Friday. Quebec's Labour Minister says raising the minimum wage 50 cents to $16.60 an hour will protect workers' purchasing power. But researchers say minimum wage workers are already earning well below what they call a living wage, and this increase leaves them even further behind.
It's not possible to get outside of the poverty while working at minimum wage.
Eveline Couturier is with IRIS, the Institute for Socioeconomic Research and Information. She says a living income is enough to afford a modest lifestyle, with food, shelter, and transportation, some savings for emergencies, and the ability to afford some cultural activities.
We try to do a budget of what it means to live outside of poverty. So
in Montreal, that now costs $41,000 for a single person, $56,000 for a single parent and one child, and close to $89,000 a year for a family of 4. And remember, these are expenses equal to earnings after tax.
To afford a living income, they would need to have a salary, a wage of $30 an hour, which is much higher than the minimum wage.
A full-time minimum wage earner's take-home pay is just over $2,100 per month, with almost all of it going to food and housing.
It's not unusual for us to see people who are earning perhaps the current minimum wage already spending about 3/4 of their income on rent.
Average rents are increasing between 4% and 6% this year, while food prices are projected to jump another 6%.
The average family will spend about $1,400 and change per month, basically.
At a certain point, the numbers simply don't add up. Matt Gilmore, CTV News.
Well, the Montreal Canadiens are headed back home with a chance to close out their series tomorrow night at the Bell Centre. And as Kelly Gregg reports, that's not the only good news for Montreal hockey fans.
From Tampa, Montreal right back to Montreal. The playoffs are heading back to the Bell Centre, and the Habs have the chance to close the series out at home for the first time since advancing to the Stanley Cup Final in 2021.
The crowd's going to be loud. It's going to be buzzing in there. Everyone's going to be excited for us to close it out.
But that energy in the stands can't go too far onto the ice.
I think we just got to kind of stay even keeled through all of it, and I think that's kind of a big thing. It's going to be loud. Fans are going to be excited, but big thing for us is just to kind of not get too high, not get too low.
There's so much anticipation, even the electric company is getting in on the buzz. Hydro-Quebec jokingly modifying its logo to remove the Tampa Bay-style lightning bolt. Despite being outshot 24-40, the Habs managed to hang on to win Game 5 on the road. And it was Brendan Gallagher, who was a healthy scratch for the first 4 games, who opened the scoring.
Welcome back, Brendan Gallagher.
He understands that he's probably closer to the end than he is to the beginning, and every opportunity that he gets in the lineup, he really does have to make it count.
And it's not just the Habs generating excitement. The Laval Rocket won their first playoff game against the Marlies last night, 3-1.
It is a group who have that nice mix of veterans and younger players who are coming in with loads of talent, and players down there who Montreal Canadiens fans will see at the Bell Centre in the not-too-distant future.
On top of that, the Montreal Victoire are also getting ready for their first playoff game this Saturday.
I think just intensity overall in the league, right? Everyone's amped up for this. So, yeah, it's going to be exciting.
And now, with the Edmonton Oilers on the brink of elimination in the playoffs, it's possible the Canadiens will be the only Canadian team left. They have the chance to close it out tomorrow on home ice. Kelly Gregg, CTV News.
Meantime, the Habs right-winger Cole Caulfield is a finalist for the Lady Byng Trophy. The award is given annually to the NHL player voted the best at combining sportsmanship with playing ability. Caulfield led the Habs with 51 goals in the regular season while taking 14 penalty minutes. Ottawa Senators defenseman Jake Sanderson and LA Kings center Anze Kopitar were also nominated by the Professional Hockey Writers Association. Olivia Rodrigo is coming back to Montreal. The Unraveled Tour is coming to the Bell Centre this October 21st and 22nd, to the delight of her fans who thought she might not stop in a city without a stadium. Rodrigo performed at Osheaga last year. And still ahead, where Quebec may not be keeping up on breast cancer diagnosis and treatment. Breast Cancer Canada is a national organization dedicated to raising funds for cutting-edge research in breast cancer detection and treatment. The group has just released its latest report on breast cancer care in Canada in 2025. And here to tell us more is Kimberly Carson of Breast Cancer Canada. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, Kimberly, you looked at the standards of care across the country. Did you compare provinces? And if so, how does Quebec compare in terms of standards of care for patients here compared to other provinces?
You know, there's a few things that we see with Quebec. Obviously, that they have not lowered the screening age to from 50 to 40 when other provinces have. So Quebec is still the only province now in Canada that has not committed to doing that. So right away, you're behind the 8 ball a little bit, because not having access to screening that's self-referred at the age of 40 puts Quebec at a disadvantage right out of the beginning. The other thing that I'll tell you about Quebec is that they have there's their own health technology agency in Quebec, as opposed to the other parts of Canada, which have all combined together to have one. So when we're looking at approval for new medication, those companies have to come and they have to have their medications approved at one HTA for most of Canada, and then another HTA directly for Quebec. So it's twice the amount of work and twice the amount of cost. So these are some of the issues that we see with Quebec. And, you know, it does affect the standard of care in Quebec.
So I was going to say, are there some drugs that Quebec patients are not getting as a result of that?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've just recently done a lot of advocacy work in Quebec over a drug that was meant for very early sort of stage breast cancer that would help patients with the risk of reoccurrence. And unfortunately, we had to do a lot of advocacy work with the health and the technology agency to make sure that we could get that drug approved in Canada for all of the patients that would require it. So they are looking at it again. The good news is they are looking at it again to say maybe we should review that again. Maybe we missed some data. So I'm excited to say that that's happening.
And what's the name of that drug?
That's a drug called ribociclib.
Ribociclib. Okay. When you look at how we're doing Canada-wide compared to other countries, how are we doing internationally compared to the rest of the world in this battle?
You know, to a certain extent, Canada's been a little bit behind the G7 countries, and that's one of the reasons why the Real Alliance has come together to look at what should be considered standard of care in Canada and what their guidance around those medications should be. And what they're doing is they're looking at all of the new treatment of care that's coming out every year and then updating those guidelines and republishing every year. So what's just come out now is their guidance and their recommendations around standard of care for the main subtypes of breast cancer. So again, keeping in mind that there's over 50 different types of breast cancer, what they've done is they've segmented it down by major tumor type, and then done early stage and late stage, meaning early stage in curative intent, and then, you know, anyone who's had their cancer come back and it's now in a metastatic stage.
Wow, 50 different types of breast cancer. That in itself just shows how complex this battle is. Kimberly Carson, thanks so much for your time tonight and for bringing us up to speed on where we are with this disease.
Yeah, I mean, anytime. Thank you very much for having me.
Menswear provided by Earnest. Elevate your style with Earnest. Weather brought to you by Gratianscaf. Second pair is a gift event including designer frames. A second pair free for a limited time.
Well, they say April showers brings May flowers, but we may be getting some sunshine along with that too. And you could say it made up for the weather that we had today. We had that expected high actually earlier in the day at about 4 a.m. and then we hit that low of 9 closer to when most of us were out making our morning commute. So that is to say that it was a bit of a cooler day than usual with our daytime high now sitting at 16 degrees. But here's a look at what we have coming for tonight. We're expecting a low of 4 along with clouds shifting over to clearer skies. By tomorrow morning, we're expecting a return to some sunshine. Our wake up temperature looking like 5 degrees, and then we're looking at a move up. That would be to an expected high of 13. And we are seeing some clouds rolling in, so our futurecast showing us those clouds coming in closer to the middle of the day and early afternoon around 2. Also seeing some showers moving across Quebec, but staying to the west of the Montreal area for the most part tomorrow afternoon. And as far as what the weekend holds, well, it's looking pretty good, similar to last weekend insofar as the conditions in the skies. So that is a hold on sun and clouds all weekend long once again, but with some cooler temperatures. So our expected high is sitting at 11 on Saturday. On Sunday, we're looking at a high of 12. Good news and bad news. If we look further into next week, on Monday, we're seeing a warm start with a daytime high of 18, but some possible showers coming in. So as we look from Monday all the way to Thursday, we see varying degrees of those showers, roughly 2 millimeters on Monday, 7 more on Tuesday, potentially 11 come Wednesday, and then a lighter 5 on Thursday. But more good news along with that is we are expecting a hold on the daytime highs in the teens, and that could look like a daytime high of 14 degrees all the way up until Thursday next week.
A Montreal bar has been named the best watering hole in the country by Canada's Best, an online magazine. The Cloakroom Bar is known as a cocktail and whiskey bar. It topped the list of Canada's best bars along with 7 other Montreal establishments and 1 in Quebec City that cracked the top 50. Owner Andrew Wibley says keeping standards high isn't easy, but he's lucky to work with great people.
It's definitely a pressure. I'm really fortunate and privileged to have a great staff that a lot of them have been with me for a long time. We treat them well and try to put them in an environment that they'll want to stay in and want to work and want to grow with us.
And Wibley also owns Dominion Bar, which came in at number 37 on the list. A map of all the top bars is on our website. And that's closing time for us. For the latest news, you can listen to the Andrew Carter Morning Show at 5 on CJAD 800 And of course, you can always head to ctvnewsmontreal.ca for extended coverage. Thanks for staying up late with us. We'll see you again tomorrow. Have a good night.